it's Marie from Pear Tree Paper Crafts, and I'm back with another 12 by 12 process video for you. This one is using my Indigo Blue Kit from Lottie Loves Paper, and you might notice something a little bit strange there about the two photographs that were sat just as the video started compared with the photographs at the beginning of the process video. I do change photograph about halfway through. I was planning on using those pictures of my son eating an ice cream, but then I changed my mind because the layout with the stars and it kind of lent itself better to this photograph that I've been trying to scrap for a while. So what you've just seen me do is take one of the pieces of paper from the 12 by 12 paper add-on. It's the stars paper there, and I've trimmed a 1/4 inch from each side and then used a piece of paper that I'd already gutted. In fact, I'd already used it on another layout that I just wanted to put a darker border around the outside to really frame it, and it was from a layout that I'd previously sort of taken apart, so I just used that again. So what I'm doing now is using some acrylic paint. I've used a pencil and I've drawn a circle that kind of goes off the page there. I'm just using some acrylic paint to create this mixed media effect circle that I'm going to place these stars onto. Again, the stars were cut out of one of the 12 by 12 sheets that came in the paper add-on pack. So I've obviously created the circle, and then what I realise is I want to do some splatters just to soften the appearance of that circle. But you can't really see them very well on the recording, but I think you can see them much better in person and on the close-up, so have a look for those. I tried to do it in a bit of a lighter colour so it was really obvious and it stood out. And then I go about sort of positioning where the stars are going to go and having a think about where they're going to go. But then, as I'm just looking at it, because I've gone for a mixed media sort of appearance to this layout, the stars then look too clean and too perfect. So then what I decided to do is just take a little bit more white acrylic paint and paint around the edges of each of the stars just to give them a white edging, and that makes them really pop out from that circle. I don't make you watch me paint all of these, but I just go very carefully around the edge of it. In fact, I don't go very carefully at all. I do make a bit of a mess on a few of them, but I don't think it matters. I'm quite happy with the sort of messier appearance of it. And this is the point when I changed my photograph because I just wasn't happy with those two. It didn't fit with the star theme, but this one does. It's not the best photograph in the world, but it was one that I've wanted to scrap for ages. We took my son to the Minster near us, where they had an art installation of this giant moon, and you could stand under it and it turned ever so slightly, and it was made up of lots of real photographs of the moon, and they had sound effects playing, and it was like an all immersive experience. And my son loves the stars, so we took him and we tried to get a selfie, and it wasn't the most successful selfie, as you can see, because most of his face is missing, but it meant a lot to me, and I know how much he enjoyed being there and seeing it, so I wanted to scrap it. And I think that's important with scrapping. You don't necessarily have to have the perfect photograph. It just has to mean something to you, and this one really means something to me. So what I'm doing now is just using some adhesive foam to stick down my stars now that my acrylic circle has dried. And I originally was going to do them kind of all spaced spaced out evenly, but then I decided I liked them sort of clustered more, so I kind of grouped them together and pushed them a bit closer. I've cut stars in 3 different sizes. I used my Cricut to do that. I did that off camera before we started, and then the idea then hit me while I was sort of putting the stars around that I really wanted to use that title, View to the Stars and Back. So that's why I decided to change the photograph, and I will keep those 2 photographs for another one. So I do decide to put my title going round the circle, and then as I realise I'm going to lose a few of the letters, I then have a bit of a play with the positioning of the words, and I do end up moving them round a little bit more as I try and squeeze moon in, because moon ends up down there, to try and go round where I've stuck down the the stars, and then moon and back works really well here. I think I do move and over a little bit more, but then I just move my, they move down a little bit more, and then I move my that round. It's quite hard on a circle, on a curve, to get a title exactly right, but what I tend to do with these letters is put them down very gently, and then they can always be moved should you want to move the title around or change things. And with longer ones, I do find that they're the ones I do kind of mess about with a little bit more. And yeah, I'm quite happy with that. I think that's where they're going to go. I do then have a bit of difficulty deciding what I'm going to back this photograph on, but I do decide on that blue paper from the 6x6 pad from the Indigo and Ivy collection. I just trim a little bit off the photograph so that you can actually see the paper sticking out from behind, and then I just pop it on there. I don't do a lot of matting on the photograph because I don't think it needs it, not with all the interest that's in the circle around the photograph itself. So then I just make sure that all the edges are the same size all around, and then I'm just going to use a little bit more white acrylic paint around the outside of that photograph, just to make it sort of matching with the idea of those distressed edges that I've done on the stars. Now I'm just going to position where that photograph's going to go and prop it up on some adhesive foam. I don't know why I always feel the need to use a matching colour of foam, just in case you happen to see any sticking out. It's very unlikely, but just in case. So I was going to wonky the photograph. I do decide to do it straight and have it tucked over the edge just slightly. Now I'm using the stickers from the embellishment kit, and I'm choosing all the blue ones to go down that edge, because I fancied having in that little bit of space there just a list of all these phrases like wonderful and life is good. So I do choose all the blues. I do keep it quite monochromatic in the blues for this particular layout, and I do decide to put a little cluster down in that bottom right hand corner, just to add a bit of extra interest to the page. I do play with quite a few embellishments that could tuck in around that photograph, but in the end I decide that it just doesn't need it, and I don't need to add those extra bits on. So I'm just popping a hole using my crocodile into that tag, and then I'm just going to use sticky back plastic on one and then adhesive foam on the other, just to give a bit of dimension to that bottom corner. And then I think the next thing I do is get out my sequins. I do play around with these little phrases from what's left of the 12x12 sheet, but in the end there's nowhere to put them, and I don't want to overly complicate the page, so I decide not to put them there. I do wonder about popping this perspective in from my stash, but again I think it's a step too far in the middle, and I love the fact that picture just sort of pops out from the middle of that circle. So what I do decide to do is just add some bits of sparkle using some sequins. One of the main things I'm doing here is actually covering up the bits of pink splatter that are on that backing 12x12 page, because I don't like them on that particular. I love the stars, but they're just the bits of pink I wanted to cover up, so I thought I'd use some sequins, make it look really nice and sparkly. I do try and cluster them so that I end up with little groups of 3, and then I don't know that they end up in clusters necessarily. Some of them are, but there's quite a few that are just randomly placed all over. Adds a nice bit of sparkle to the page, and I do decide to pop an extra few along this side. Quite a fiddly job, but well worth it. And that is about the end of my layout. Thank you ever so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'll be back soon with some more process videos for you, and if you keep watching, there'll be some close-ups at the end.